Ever thought about writing a book with your sibling? Collaborative writing next.
We have Jenny and Matt Holm here with us today. They are brother and sister, and Jenny is a very well-known author of the 14th Goldfish, and she has now written a new book with her brother. And I thought just brothers and sisters just fought all the time. I didn't know they wrote books together, but Jenny is the older sister to Matt, and they're 2 of 5 siblings. Jenny's now living in Orange County, and Matt lives up in Portland, Oregon. And we're so happy to have you guys on the show today, and looking forward to hearing about how you wrote the book and a little bit about the book, too, so that our listeners can learn about if that book would be something that they'd want to read. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
And why don't you first just tell us, we'll go ladies first here on this. Jenny, why don't you tell us a little bit about the new book, the plot of it, and why you like it? What are you passionate about?
Sure. So our new collaboration is called Sunny Side Up. It came out about 2 weeks ago, and it's from Scholastic Graphics. That's their graphic novel imprint. It's a full-color graphic novel for all the comic fans in the audience. And this is kind of, this book was inspired by our 70s childhood. We grew up in the 70s in Pennsylvania. Actually brought some awesome props for you guys. Do you remember this?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Don't tell me you've got pop rocks over there, too.
I found a original pet rock with the pet rock on eBay. It's crazy. You can find anything on eBay. So we grew up in Pennsylvania outside of Valley Forge, and one big momentous moment in our childhood was the bicentennial, and growing up outside of Philadelphia, it was completely crazy. We were just inundated with red, white, and blue for a year of our life. And so we sort of took little moments of our childhood, like the bicentennial and the fact that our grandfather lived in a retirement community in Florida, which was kind of a wacky concept to us, like that only old people could live in a place. As a child, that was very weird. And also combined it with our love of comics. And it's really about a girl named Sunny who spends the summer of 1976 with her grandfather in Florida. And we find out why she is sent there as the book progresses. So it's a little bit of a love letter to the 70s in comics also.
I remember the 70s well.
And you might not have been doing it right.
That's right.
Yeah. So Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the book?
Yeah, the book was exciting because it was our first time working with actual human beings as the cartoon characters. Normally I have to draw mice or amoebas or other animal creatures. So I had to actually draw people, which is exciting. And
so you're the artist?
I am the artist, yeah.
Okay, and Jenny did the text then. She did the...
Yeah, it's a little, the edges get a little blurry, but basically Jenny will write the initial manuscript, and then I'll go through and revise and edit. And then I'll do thumbnail sketches, which are just disconnected individual frames from all of the different cartoon panels that might be in the book. And then Jenny will go through and then arrange them and actually lay out the pages. So she'll figure out how it all goes. Yeah. Oh, and for people watching at home, she's holding up a nice little page layout. So she actually prints things out and cuts them out with scissors and glues them down. So you can sort of get a feel for how it all might fit together. And then I'll go back and redraw everything after that. So she helps a little bit with the art. I help a little bit with the writing, but I do most of the artwork and Jenny does most of the writing work.
Because I can't draw, you guys. At all.
Yet. You have to add the word yet.
Yeah, I suppose that, an eternal student, but, I've accepted my limitations.
So do you have a background in art then? I mean, have you done other books? Have you illustrated do you do it for a living, or what's your background with that?
Well, I went to school for art and English. I was actually an English major, but I had honors in art. And when I got out of school, I wrote and edited for Country Living magazine, writing about kitchens and home decorating and restoring, historic barns, things like that. Did that for about 8 years. but I was always into comics and into cartooning, and I always really wanted to like make newspaper comic strips. But there's hardly any newspapers left, let alone newspaper comic strips these days. So I always wanted to make comics, and I kept doing it as a sideline. And Jenny came up with the idea one day for Baby Mouse, because she had been writing all of these books for kids, but she still remembered there's this huge part of our childhood, which was all of these comics that we constantly read. And she's like, we need to make comics for kids. I can put all these things together. And of course, she turned to the younger brother who could draw, and then she could tell what to do, which is what, older sisters are used to doing.
He's been drawing he's been doing Baby Mouse and Squish for over 10 years now.
Yeah.
11 years.
Yeah, 11 years. So, yeah, so we've been drawing for quite a while now.
So, most books, you can get them on Kindle. Can you get a book like this on a Kindle?
Sunny Side Up?
Yeah.
There's a full color ebook version, and I downloaded it. It's beautiful. You can kind of push in on the different cells on the page. Really fun.
Yeah, one of the nice things I think with the kids graphic novels is that they have almost the exact same page format as your typical Kindle or iPad screen. So it's not like reading like the big floppy comics where you kind of have to zoom in or you're seeing it squished up or something. It's actually sort of like a 1-to-1 size ratio. So it's kind of cool.
So give us a little more insight into the collaboration piece and how that works. I know, Jenny, you start off with like a draft manuscript idea, and then you went back and forth. Does that process take a long time? Is this like 2 months, 5 months? Have you been working on that for years? What's the process like?
I mean, I think the manuscript took over a year because I'll do drafts, and it's not just Matt and I involved. So, I mean, usually I love collaborating. I write novels on my own, and Matt's on projects on his own. But I think we both agree that collaborating it's nice because it's a dark, lonely place to try to do a book by yourself with just your own head. And so I rely on him now a lot. When I'm doing the manuscript, I'll kind of beat it out, and then there'll be sections where I'll just put, I don't really know if this works here, and I'll just asterisk things. I know this is not working. Somebody needs to fix it. I can't figure it out. And then I can just email him the whole thing, and then he can kind of just do a search and find out all the points where I'm having trouble with. But we also, during the year of the process, we also have an editor at the publishing company. We have an amazing editor. He's actually pretty much a superstar himself. His name is David Lemfan. He's a very well-known, best-selling young adult author. So that was kind of thrilling to work with him. And
now, wait, Jenny, do any battles take place in this process? Debates, arguments? Are you kidding me? We can't take the character in that direction. What are you talking about?
No, I think we worked out. We kind of we figured out how to work together in the first 2 years that we did Baby Mouse, and we actually produced the first two Baby Mouse books simultaneously over a 2-year period. And we learned pretty quickly that whoever saw a problem with something, it was valid. And I think that neither of us gets very precious about somebody pointing out a problem, because we both had worked in industry. So he had worked and had been edited before. So he had been an editor for Hearst magazine, and I had been a producer at Ogilvy and May, their television producer. So I was used to people giving me feedback constantly and having to wade through what's the biggest problem first. And we learned that if somebody is not seeing something, then you're not communicating it effectively. So even you might have a great idea in your head, but if I send it to him and he doesn't see it, then it's just still in my head, So we tend not to have big fights. So maybe someday.
I think that's that's probably one of the beauties of collaborating, is that you have that sounding board, you have that feedback that goes on constantly, which the readers are going to be thinking that anyway. So you might as well know it before you publish it, right?
Yeah, I think I grew up creatively as an artist, sort of formatively when I was working in advertising. So I started writing my first children's book then. even though it was by myself, but I grew up working in an atmosphere where everybody collaborated and you had to work with other people. And I loved it. You know, I like working with other human beings. I'm not like, I need to be solo in my attic, you know. I'm fine with the real world, so.
And that's
no,
so
like,
different.
Mountain cabin writing that's going on.
Definitely not.
Okay.
That's not for me.
Yeah, and that's it's kind of ironic too with an author that wants to work with people, because I mean I think the stereotypical idea of someone that's an author is that they want to be by themselves and write, you know, and then go sit on a beach someplace or something like that. So
yeah, no, I mean I think I've gotten much more. I mean, if you just are with yourself all day, the true reality is you will miss humans.
So Matt, are you the like cabin writer?
I'm a little more of a cabin writer. Like when I worked at the magazine, my goal was constantly to get my cubicle as far away from everybody else. I'm mostly just because the way I work, you know, there's a thing like when you're writing a novel or something, you've only got maybe a 1 to like tops like 3 hours a day of really good work coming out of you, and then you kind of need to like recharge and then come back to it.
Wait, that's a really good point that I think teachers and kids need to know, that it does take a tremendous amount of focus and energy, and you can't do it for 6 or 8 hours a day, right? I mean, that's
right. That was when I was in college. My writing teachers were like, look, you know, see, if you just write 1 hour a day, if you write 1 page a day, then at the end of a year you've got an entire novel. You know, right. So it builds up very quickly, but yeah, you have to really sort of pour yourself into it for that full hour. And then after that, you see diminishing returns. Your stuff starts getting messy, and then you have to kind of stop. When I was at the magazine, the workload was a little higher, and so I just got used to having to, you know, block out, outline, research, write all day long. So I got used into these sort of like 6-8 hour work periods. And with the graphic novels, as an artist, that's how you have to work. You just are drawing for 8 or 10 hours straight. There's no other way to handle the workload. So I do kind of like to get away from everybody for a while to do that.
Totally. I'm curious too, just because I am so not an artist. I look at those pages of that novel, or, you know, how long does it take to draw the images for 1 page of that?
Well, we do it a couple times, so that's the thing. You know, I do the
actual finished project.
The actual if I was doing just the final inking for the final page, it would probably be between 1 and 3 hours. Well, I do our work on spreads. I work on 2 pages at a time, so okay. So probably if you just want to do 1 page, then it would probably be about 1 to 1.5 hours per page. To to do the inking,
but you've already done the drawing, though.
But I've already drawn that at least once, and that itself took, you know, another 45 minutes or something for that page. And then Jenny was laying it out and composing it, and that took longer. So, and then of course with this book it's full color, so Lark, our colorist, has to go through, and Lord knows how long that takes her. That was a lot of extra work.
Wow.
Yeah, when I see something like that, I'm thinking like 20, 30 hours for 1 page.
It's not that bad. And I try to, we've, because with Baby Mouse and Squish, we had such a high volume of output. You know, there were years where we're putting out 4 books in 1 year, which is a crazy amount of pages to produce in a year. So we really worked on streamlining our process as much as possible. So I do my initial sketches in pencil, but after that, everything is digital. So all of my inking is actually done straight into the computer, which lets me recompose things very easily. I can move it around or erase or undo, you know, if I mess things up, and I can layer things up and I can try things out. And if it's not working, I can quickly, you know, revert to a previous version of it. So going digitally definitely speeds up the process over doing with pencil or with pen and ink, where you have to hope you don't mess up, and then there's a lot of whiteout and everything else.
So just really quickly, so are you thrilled about the new Apple Pencil? I'm just kidding.
Actually, I am so unthrilled about the Apple Pencil. Just because my drawing stuff is so so software intensive. Like I have to use Photoshop and InDesign, and I use Illustrator and everything else, and it requires so much computing power to do everything I'm doing, and file management. And the iPad has no file management of any kind, you know. And so even if they put a Photoshop Lite version on there, it'd be great if I'm doing a sketch, but to do the actual final work, it doesn't help me in the slightest bit.
And it's not yellow, so it's a little disappointing.
I know, a white pencil. What's the point of that?
Hey, could each one of you give just kind of talk to teachers from your perspective? If you could go back into school, elementary school again, both of you are successful. Author, illustrator. You're publishing books. This is where we want our kids to end up. So what would you say to teachers in terms of one little piece of advice? Like, I was the kind of kid that was this way, and I sure wish my teachers would have whatever.
I was lucky. I had great teachers. I think my favorite experience always in elementary school was when teachers did read alouds. That was had the most impact. But one thing I think would be great to use in the classroom now, and I've started to use it, I do a lot of school visits, and I feel that children get very nervous when you ask them to start writing an essay or write a book report. They're just scared to put that pencil to the page. They want it to be perfect the very first time, and that is not reality. In reality, writers revise things hundreds of times. And so one thing we started to do in my house with my own children, I have a 12-year-old and an 8-year-old, and I do it myself now because I get stuck, is I actually doodle out. This is a doodle sketch for a novel I'm working on. I actually will sit down first and I'll just start doodling out what I think is going to happen. Doodle out the ideas, and then it kind of loosens you up, and I don't get as nervous about, is this going to be a perfect first sentence? And I think a lot of kids think visually now because we're a very visual society, obviously. And I think just having the kids have a scratch pad to doodle on their ideas would be a good tool in the classroom.
I love it.
It's like show your work, but with your writing instead of with
show your work. Exactly.
There's sketchnoting, and that's kind of a up and coming thing. And with some teachers in their classrooms, is teaching kids sketchnoting and how they can show their visuals of what they're learning. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I think another thing. I think another thing is we've been talking about collaboration and collaborative writing, and we all remember when we were kids and we're stuck doing some school project with a group, and there's always, somebody who's totally slacking off and not doing anything, and you end up doing everything and blah, blah, blah. But one of the things with...
Wait, you're the youngest, Matt. You were supposed to be the slacking off one. That wasn't a bad deal for you, was it? That was me, too. I'm the youngest. So
yeah. But the thing is with writing, and especially with doing comics, it's always been...
That's our new sound effects, everybody.
I know.
The doorbell.
It's my doorbell. It's always been something that people collaborate on. So you've got an artist and a writer working together, and that it's a way for teachers, if you have students who are nervous about their writing abilities or students that are nervous about their drawing abilities, you can team them up so that their skills complement each other and they both feel like they're contributing to the story in a useful way.
Successful.
Yeah.
I love that concept of putting kids in a place where they can demonstrate their strengths rather than purely focusing on helping them in a weakness area. So that's pretty cool. And the doorbell made me think, Jenny, when you came over to my classroom and your doorbell rang at your house, and all of a sudden you're walking in the back door of my classroom and my kids are freaking out. That was awesome.
Actually, I think I need to answer this doorbell. Hang on a second.
It's just a salesman.
Wait, whose room is he going to walk into your room that you're in right now? Is Matt? Yeah. So the book's on Kindle. Can you give us a little bit more of some insight as to what happens in this book?
Yeah. So really, what happens in the book? It's Sunny is sent down to Florida.
Sorry, missionaries.
Sunny is sent down to Florida, and she's supposed to be spending the summer at the Jersey Shore, which is where we spent the summer. But something has happened. And we learn through the book that she has an older sibling, who is having substance abuse issues. that get increasingly out of control. And so her parents sent her down to Florida so that they can help the older sibling. And the book is really meant for kids who have something going on in their life or someone on in their life, and they don't know how to handle it, and to encourage them to talk about it. Because when we were kids, we had a relative who had some pretty profound substance abuse problems. And we felt like we were spectators to what was happening, but it completely colored our childhood. Even though it wasn't our problem, everything was affected by it. And it was the 70s. It was a time people didn't talk as freely, I think, with their kids about what was going on. Yeah. And so we certainly didn't talk about it at all. And I think that's bad. I don't think it's good if kids go around with this heavy stuff. You know, I know they kind of talk about you don't want your bucket full of bad things, bad feelings. You empty your bucket and share what's going on. And so we hope this will encourage. We've already heard from so many kids who've reached out, and grown-ups who said, wow, I had a similar situation. I didn't know how to talk about it, and it made me feel worse. You know, even 20 years later, I feel bad.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. We've heard from people who said, you know, when I was a kid, I wouldn't have even wanted to talk about it. I would like, it wasn't something I could talk about, but being able to have this personal moment with a book where I know someone else is having this experience, but I don't have to go through the awkward and embarrassing part of actually talking about it out loud would have been a huge help. So interesting that a book gives you a different angle to sort of dealing with that.
Therapy.
Yeah.
It's a therapy book.
It is a little bit.
Very cool.
Yeah, no, awesome. And it does give you insight as a young person that you can't necessarily have from experience. So that's cool to gain that experience through reading, which is powerful for sure. Hey, Tim.
Yes, I think it's that time. Woo! It's time for the Sibling Feud. Not the Family Feud, but the Sibling Feud.
Nice.
So we're going to play a little game with you guys, and you're going to try to win a prize. Not for you, but for someone else. So, Scott, why don't you tell us about it?
Jenny and Matt, you'll be competing for Mrs. Bennett, a third grade teacher in Newport Beach. If you're able to answer 2 out of the 3 questions correctly, Mrs. Bennett will be awarded a free download of an album by the ridiculously popular edgy rock band Rockin' the Standards.
Thanks, Scott. Okay, should we kill the music?
Please.
I don't know. I'm kind of enjoying it. Brings back memories of Richard Dawson.
Back to the 70s.
Yeah. There you go. Back to the
bringing it full circle.
Back to the 70s again.
Kissing everyone on the show.
Yeah.
That's what I remember about him.
Oh yeah, he was funny though too. All right, so yes, today we're going to ask you questions about some famous people that were in sibling feuds, and you're going to try to answer these questions. Okay, so our first question, number 1. Madonna and her brother Christopher, I don't even know how to say his last name, Ciccone, worked pretty closely together as she launched her career. He's been her assistant, stylist, and artistic director at one time or another. But the two stopped speaking in 2008. Why? Why did they stop speaking? Is it, and we got 3 choices for you. Okay. We'll let you discuss it with one another before you make your final answer.
No Googling, though. No,
Googling. This is Sibling Feud, not the millionaire. Okay, so is it A,
Madonna cussed out Christopher's wife?
Or is it B,
Christopher published a tell-all memoir about Madonna?
Or is it C,
Madonna mocked Christopher on stage at a concert?
Ooh.
Okay, so those are your 3 choices. Why did they part ways in 2008?
I am going to say that I saw Madonna in concert on her first tour, so that's just dating me right there. So,
I would think it's the tell-all. What do you think?
I feel like it's number 2. Do we go with number 2?
We're going to go with number 2.
Yeah. Go number 2.
Good choice. Number 2 is correct. Woo-hoo-hoo! Good job. It is B. Yes, he published a tell-all memoir that told all kinds of things that Madonna didn't want people to know. So evidently they are friends again. So
Okay.
I'm sure we're just all really glad about that.
So Matt, when's the memoir coming out?
It's all in baby mouth. Just read between the lines.
Oh, nice. Inference.
Inferencing, we like that. Okay, so question number 2. Despite a 10-year age difference, Julia Roberts and her brother Eric were once quite close. Julia even lived with her big brother after moving out of her parents' house. But Julia and Eric parted ways after what happened? Is it A?
Eric got into drugs and alcohol and split up with his girlfriend.
Or is it B?
Julia got too involved in Eric's career as a musician and alienated Eric with her bossiness.
Or is it C?
Eric didn't show up at a family Christmas party and then blamed Julia.
Ooh.
Okay, so
I feel
your
like
3 choices are Eric getting into drugs and alcohol, Julia getting too involved with Eric's music career, or C, the Christmas party fiasco.
pretty sure it was A.
I would agree with that. I mean, B, I don't see her getting involved with anyone's music career. I don't know. That doesn't seem right. Yeah, let's go with A.
A. That is correct.
Yes.
Woo! You know our celeb gossip.
All
You
my
guys.
Entertainment Weekly are paying off in this podcast.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah, you guys are keeping up. Boy, I tell you. Okay, and your final question. This is not... Entertainment is not going to help you on this one.
Uh-oh.
Are either of you historians?
No.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, she was
well,
a
if you,
political science major.
okay, well,
You might know this then.
you might know this then. John Wilkes Booth, the assassin who killed Abraham Lincoln, had quite a rivalry with his brother Edwin.
Yes.
What did their rivalry center around? Was it A,
Edwin was a staunch supporter of Lincoln.
or was it B,
John always beat Edwin in poker.
or was it C?
They were both actors, and John had worse reviews.
I'm taking this. It was C because
It's
I
C.
used to live in Bel Air, Maryland, which is where the Booth family house was, where he grew up. So I'm going with C.
Are you
And-
sure?
And didn't the older brother actually save Abraham Lincoln's son or something? I thought I read that one
We're a famous
time.
theater family.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely the actor problem.
Yeah.
Wow, you guys are way too good at this. Yes, that is correct. You got them all right. Woo. Okay, so Scott, why don't you let everybody know how our brother and sister team of Jenny and Matt Holm did on our game today?
Jenny and Matt, you got 3 out of 3 correct. That's 100%. Nice job. And that's good enough to be a winner.
Woo!
Congratulations. You've won absolutely nothing.
Yay!
But Mr. Bennett in Newport Beach just won a free download of the ridiculously popular rock band Rockin' the Standards. Education rock and roll music for grades 2 through 6.
I love that.
Created by Tim Bedley.
Good for him.
All right, so thanks so much for playing along. You guys are just way too good at this. And
We got to have harder questions next time you come on.
yeah, definitely.
Let's see, what aren't you experts at?
Sports.
Math. Oh, okay, we'll ask math questions next time. What is the square root of
I'll lose.
the Pythagorean theorem? Okay, so why don't you let our listeners know how they can connect with you in the future? If you're, on the internet, or obviously they can go just about anywhere to buy your book, but in terms of connecting with you guys personally.
So you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Jenny Holm, JenniHolm. And Matt is
And I'm on Twitter at Matt Holm, MattHolm. Easiest place to find us.
You got Matt Holm? Wow.
I did. I was an early adopter.
You must have been, because that would be... Yeah.
You got T-Bed 63, Tim? How'd you get that?
Wow.
I know. I had to buy it for $10,000, but it was worth it.
Hey, well, thank you both for coming on. I can't thank you enough, and we really value you as authors and what you provide for our kids. And just this one seems so powerful to help kids deal with issues that may be difficult for them to talk to anyone about. So thanks again for the work you're doing. And, I can't speak for all the teachers, but I know the teachers out there really appreciate authors like you who care about the things you're putting into the books for our students. So we thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate the teachers. So.
Yay, go teachers.
All right. And thanks for watching.
Mom and Dad.
Mom and Dad.
Bye.
Bye.